Welcome to the Mortgage Podcast, where we give tactics, strategies, and inspiration to get you to 10 plus loans per month. We talk a lot about how to make a ton of money in mortgage while also being happy and thriving in your personal life. If you want to be a mortgage millionaire, you're in the right place. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Mortgage Podcast with Todd Screema. Welcome to Season 2. Season 2 is just beginning. We're going to kick this off with sales leverage. Remember that the goal of this podcast is to help those loan officers that are closing 2, 3, 4, 5 loans a month, and how do we get to 10? And this episode is a major part to that. And it's also one of those areas where a lot of people hear these things and they don't want to do it. I don't know how else to say it. This is kind of a weird metaphor, but Adrienne and I, my girlfriend, once a month, we do counseling together. And we were waiting for Adrienne to get on yesterday. And I just said, hey, Ann is the therapist's name, and she's really good. I said, what's the big problem that couples have? And she said, well, if you're talking about men never really take the step of how to be emotionally nourishing to a lady. And women have PhDs in emotions because we've dealt with them for so long and they're so big. 30, 40, 50-year-old women's kind of learned that, and the men kind of don't keep up. And so there's all this disconnect in the relationship. And I know for me, these are things I had to learn. So when I talk about leveraging in sales, you're going to have to learn these things. I know you may not do them now, but that's also why we're closing 3 loans a month. I want to articulate these. When we talk about leverage, there's operational leverage, and there's sales leverage, and there's finance leverage. Finance leverage would be, I'm going to buy a commercial building for $5 million, and I'm going to put $1 million down and loan for $1 million. If the building's cash flowing, I'm using the loan as financial leverage. Operational leverage is not as important as it was, say, during COVID, because frankly, we've got enough time to do 10 deals a month ourselves. I know some people don't think that, but if you're process driven and you're good at time and task management, you can do 7, 8, 9 loans a month by yourself. And I know a lot of people are going to disagree with that, but that's because they haven't learned that. But specifically today, I'm just going to talk about sales leverage. I'm going to talk about sales leverage because that's the choke point. And if you've heard me speak before, I don't work on anything except for what the choke point is. And right now, the choke point for most loan officers is they just don't have enough appointments and they don't have enough lead volume. So it's all sales driven. So let's talk about sales leverage. I'm going to give you 3 things. The first thing is proper target marketing. I took 50 loan officers last year. This is 2025. And I got all their list of accounts, the entire list. And on average, only 3 out of 40 accounts that a loan officer had on their list did any business. Now, these loan officers that I'm talking about, this group of 50, average 6.8 loans a month. So they're good loan officers. Okay, that's top 1% last year. They're literally calling 90% of the people they're calling on, they shouldn't even be calling on, but they don't know it because they never target marketed. So I played with some of them. I said, hey, here's your list. Here's how many deals they closed. And they would look at it and they're like, Todd, that's not right. I'm like, pull up Modex and let me prove it to you. Well, they used to, I said, I know they used to close 20, 30 deals. They closed 2 last year. So the cheese moves all the time in our business. We're in a business where I could have a realtor that I close 10 deals with in a year, and then next year they close none. Why does that happen? They get married, they move away. On and on and on. Okay. So you constantly have to target your market. People are always surprised in Jolt, where we make a bunch of appointments for people. They're like, man, you got an appointment with that person? You're like, yep. If we call them enough, they'll eventually set an appointment. Even the big people. Oftentimes, the big people don't get called on that much, which is also surprising. So call on the big ones. Call on the top 5%, 6% of realtors, because that's the only ones closing deals. The reason that sales leverage is because if you make 10 sales calls a week, but 8 of them are to people who can't even send you deals, you're not going to grow. But if you make 10 sales calls and 10 out of 10 are they're doing 15, 20, 30 deals or more, you're going to get business. I just talked to one of my clients yesterday. He drove 2 hours to meet with a realtor that closed 192 transactions last year. She has already sent him 4 deals, 1 meeting. So you got to call on the right people. And he said, Todd, I had no idea this person even existed. She's in a little podunk town in the middle of nowhere, but she owns the whole town and she did 192 deals. So there are diamonds everywhere. We have to find the diamonds. Let's stop picking up the dimes
and find the diamonds. And all you need is 2 or 3, guys. I mean, that one account can be 40 closings for this loan officer next year, or this year, 2026. So target marketing is a form of leverage. People just don't think of it that way. Let's talk about the second thing, and that is having an appointment setter. Well, I preach this a lot, and I had an appointment setter after I was 8 months in the business. Before that, I sat down at my desk every day from 8:30 to 11 and made 30 phone calls. That's how I built my business. Then, as the story goes, I had a buddy of mine from college, and he said, Todd, can I just work for you for free? I got to put something on my resume. I'm graduating in 6 months, and I've never had a job. So I said, well, I can't pay you. I'm just starting to make money. He says, I'll work for free. I said, come on in. And the first day he worked for me, he set 7 appointments. 7. 2 of them were with 2 of the biggest realtors in town that I was always afraid to call. Now, get a little creative with this. I want you to pause for a minute. First of all, be honest with yourself, really honest with yourself. Are you going to sit down and make 30 to 50 phone calls a day? For 99.9% of you, the answer is no. So you're not going to effectively grow your business. Now, let's talk about solutions. So if you're really honest with yourself, you'll say, Todd, I may make 30 calls a week, but I don't make 30 calls a day. So, by the way, that metric has gone up. It used to be you can get away with 10 calls a day. Now it's 30. Why? Because the market shrank and it's more aggressive. It's more competitive. So you just tweak your numbers. Now, could you hire a VA? Yes, there's a lot of VAs that went to school in America and they speak perfect English. They're not easy to find, but they are out there. And they're usually college educated. Some of these people have master's degrees. You can go to Fiverr. If you just ask ChatGPT, what are VA companies, you'll get a list and you can call them and find one, okay? They're about $8 to $10 an hour. That's what it'll cost you. Here's a second idea. You could hire a part-time person that could be a 17-year-old kid, could be a 20-year-old kid going through college. There's all kinds of people you already know that will sit down and make 3 or 4 hours a day of calls. If you don't want to have someone full-time yet because of the cost. So obviously, you got to follow, your company's rules on employment and compliance and all that stuff. But so I'm not saying don't get it approved, but follow the rules of your company. But you can hire someone just part-time to make these calls. You guys know that I have an agency that makes all these calls, and we're really good at it. But that I'm not really here to push that. It's just I increased 43 loan officers' businesses by 70% last year doing that. So it works. I became a $140 million a year producer for 10 years because I had appointment setters. Am I pretty good in front of people? Yeah, because I've done it thousands of times. But I got good because of the setters. You could say that those setters built my business. Because if I got you 2 or 3 appointments a day, you would eventually get good. It may take 3 months, but you would get good at it, right? That repetition is the magic. So hire an appointment setter, effective target marketing. The last thing is social media. The reason that is sales leverage is because when you call someone, what they will say is, oh, I know you. I've heard of you. Most of the time they say they know you, which is kind of crazy. So social media, if you think about it, yes, you can have your VA or your assistant edit your videos and make them pretty. You can use software for that. Some of the software is okay. I don't think it's quite as good as someone else, but it's better than nothing. Or you could just post and not worry about the filters and not worry about the subcaptions and all that stuff. That's better than not doing it. The reason I say social media is sales leverage is this. If I make a post, and I'm not the world's greatest social media person, but between all the platforms that we post on, say it gets 9,000 views. And let's just do some math. Let's say that average view is 3 seconds. So I'm going to take 9,000, I'm going to times it times 3 seconds, divide that by 60. Is that right? 45 hours of selling. I think I did my math right. So I can do one post that takes me 2-3 minutes, maybe 10 minutes to post it. So in 15 minutes, I can get 9,000 people to say, oh, Todd, I wonder what Todd's talking about. Do they watch the whole thing and all that stuff? Usually not, right? People are scrolling, but maybe it's just your picture. Maybe you're having date night, whatever it is. Maybe it's a good business post, but you get 45 hours of selling by just doing a post. Or let's say it was 5 hours of views. 5 hours. It only took you 15 minutes and you got 5 hours of influence. Now, I want to be careful here. I'm not saying you'll do a post and people will just say, oh, I need you for a loan. Oh, I'm a realtor. I saw you on my Instagram, so you must be good. I'm going to try you out. It's not that. but it is influence. And that way, when you call them or your assistant calls them, what people will say is, oh, I know that Todd guy. Oh, I know Cindy, right? Because they've seen you on their social. So how would you properly leverage social? Well, let's go back to target marketing and tie some of this together. I find the top 200 buyers agents in my town, and I'm active on social at least 3 times a week. And then I sit down one evening, and me or my VA, and I friend them all 200, or I follow them all if you're on Instagram. And half of them say yes or follow me back. So now I've got 100 top producers seeing my stuff maybe once a week, okay? If I'm posting 3 times a week, they're gonna watch every one, but maybe they watch one a week or one every 2 weeks. But it is influence to the right target market. So let's wrap all this up. Let me say it in a way that I think is said differently but may land. If I'm a loan officer closing 4 loans a month, if I get an appointment setter that sets me a couple appointments a day and makes 30, 40 calls a day, I'm going to get a couple appointments without me lifting a finger. So that's sales leverage. If I'm targeting the right people, and I just take some time to do some homework in Modex, I will target the right people. So I know when I get an appointment from my appointment setter, it's a valid appointment. It's a good appointment. And then if I'm on social and I've got all these top producers seeing myself or my past clients, I'm getting some FaceTime with some of those people. It's not the same as a phone call. It's not the same as if you saw them, not even close. But it does help you to, hey, oh, that's Todd. I need a refi. Let me call him. Let me DM, right? So you will get more influence from your target market as you go through these things. Let's say that I had 2,000 past clients. For sure, you should friend them all or follow them all. And so you're going to be in front of top realtors. You're going to be in front of the financial planners. You're going to be in front of the home builder. You're going to be in front of 2,000 past clients or 1,000, and it will help your business. And you will grow from 4 or 5 loans a month to 7 or 8 to 10. This is how it works. If you have none of this, if you have none of the 3 lever points that I just pointed out, it's going to be very hard to grow. Your business is going to grow during a good market and shrink during a bad market. And you're going to be on that roller coaster for the rest of your entire life. And I don't know about you, this is too hard a business to do broke. I want to see you guys making $40, $50, $60, $80,000 a month. And if you do these things, you will eventually do that. Not overnight, but you will eventually get there. Okay? So I hope that this helps you. If this rings true and you think of someone that you can share this with, a loan officer, a financial planner, a realtor that you work with, please send it to them, because this is very valuable things from a really good sales coach. I'm in this business every single day. I've coached thousands of people. This is 3 of the things that very successful people do that is easy, relatively easy for you to execute. So the information is there. You got to just go do it. Please share it with one person. That's how this stuff spreads. I would deeply appreciate it, and it helps me help more people to get to that 10 loan a month number. Have a beautiful month. Thanks for listening.